Alicia Walker is who I am. I recently turned 45, and I'm going to drastically alter my way of life. Bill Walker and I have been wed for slightly more than 20 years. After dating for 5 years, we got engaged. Our lone daughter attended college. He is sentimental about these things. This Friday night is the 25th anniversary of our first date. We're having a special supper at our favorite restaurant, thanks to Bill. He will, regrettably, be met with the greatest and worst surprise of his life. I still adore the huge guy. Our marriage was ideal for the first few years. I was certain that we would be together for the rest of our lives. Yes, we had to share responsibilities and work hard, especially after Elizabeth, our daughter, was born. Bill forced me to resign from my work till she reached school age. Our primary objectives upon my return to work were funding Elizabeth's college education and building retirement funds. Increased income from promotions and job raises, smart investments by Bill, and a legacy from our late parents all contributed to our bank accounts growing rapidly. Bill had my utmost support during this period. We did not always agree, but we never got into arguments. We frequently made love to each other and occasionally had sex when we were feeling especially lustful for each other. Even though I got approached by guys all the time at work and even at social gatherings in the neighborhood, I never once considered cheating on him. It wasn't my preference. With Bill, I was happy. I must now acknowledge my hypocrisy. I did not like hearing about cheaters' relations in private, but I did publicly denounce them. I had heard of empty nest syndrome sufferers who allegedly turn emotionally deranged and become nuns. It's said that the personality shifts overnight. In my opinion, that was ridiculous. I saw it as an opportunity to become closer to Bill and fortify our marriage. Elizabeth lived primarily alone prior to attending college. We had gotten used to her being on her own, and she seldom ever returned home before bed. I didn't see the need to get ready to change anything in my life. Maybe I ought to have. I had more time to reflect on myself and wonder if men still thought I was attractive. At last, I made the decision to take action that I hadn't taken in a while. I took a naked glance at myself in the full-length mirror. There were wrinkles where my skin was once flawless. What was once distinctive on its own was now drooping. What was flat had developed a muffin top. What was once broad now merited a broad plaque. I doubled entendres and started paying attention to men's praises. I was either not paying attention, or men other than my husband's curiosity waned. I began exercising more, using more makeup, and clothing to accentuate my best assets, which are my breasts. Men grew more admiring. Even though I felt better about myself, I still thought I needed something new, adventurous, dangerous, and different. I started watching movies online and reading stories about people who cheat. Upon analyzing the situation at home, I noticed that my husband's treatment of me had not changed from when Elizabeth had left. That was the issue. Everything remained as it had been for ages. Yes, he told me so. He never forgot an anniversary or a birthday. We continued to have frequent intercourse, but it was the same old sex with the same old compliments. It felt like a replay rather than the original episodes, which was pleasant. I needed a shift, a pick-me-up. I felt that by doing this, I was giving Bill an opportunity to improve. To spice things up, I tried to pique Bill's interest in various sex positions or approaches. I wasn't thrilled, even though the poor guy gave it his best go. It was all well, the sex acts were different, but it was still Bill. That's when I first started to consider meeting someone who could make me feel exciting and possibly even fall in love. Confidentiality was the first and most important thing I looked for in a new partner. I would murder myself if I was discovered, as it would destroy my children and hubby. That meant no pretending to be up late at work or having sleepovers during business travels. I felt that staying in hotels or having sleepovers in his or my apartment was too risky. I started to believe that it would need to happen at work, during regular business hours. However, even it would need meticulous preparation. I eliminated nearly all of the men when I went through my selections from the office. There were a few attractive single men there, but I'd heard them boast about the __ they dated, some of whom were married. I could not allow them to boast about me. The strain of each day increased. We were at a loss for what to do. I had to make a change or I would lose my mind. Not even the new sex toys could save us from the boredom for longer than a few minutes. Then that occurred, or rather that was him. Darnell was his name. Which is short for darn. The other men would say something like damn and then giggle and say they were sorry for mispronouncing his name. He started working in the workplace around 6 months ago in a mid-level job. His charisma and good looks drew the attention of every woman. Of course, I was scared some ladies would try to rape him with their gaze. He flirted a little, but he never seemed to be looking for anything more than friendships and business partnerships. He used to glance at me and maintain his gaze for a few seconds before grinning. My heart puffed up. He would carefully drop by every few days to strike up a conversation, asking me discreetly about my spouse or daughter, so that no one other than my lust buds would be alarmed. When he requested to have lunch with me, that was the first time our relationship had changed. I consented since I realized that this might be the first step towards achieving my goals. I laughed and said, "I'll take my chances. I could use a little excitement in my life right now." I don't think I wanted, at least consciously, to let him know that there was something missing in my life, but it spilt out. He immediately said, "I hope this doesn't mean that the office gossip machine will now consider us a couple." Even if I wanted to, it's too late to take it all back. Our communication remained informal and fleeting. I discovered that he had no children and that Mary Alice, his wife, came from an affluent family. He talked well of her, but not in a tender way. Her parents opposed her being married to him. She enjoyed bringing up the fact that she had married him against the desires of her family during their disagreements, which usually ended with him feeling appreciative. I informed him about my kid and expressed my pride in her. I characterized my marriage to my husband as cozy, steady, and unwavering. I gradually told him that I wasn't happy with my life at home. I eventually made a suggestion about my spouse and I not having enjoyable sex. I kept my urge for another man for sex a secret from Darnell. He made his own assumptions. I could tell that Darnell wanted us to be more than simply amiable co-workers. Despite being well aware of the direction I was taking, I hesitantly acknowledged that I felt the same way. We exercised prudence. We made an effort not to touch or engage in overt flirting while staring wistfully at one another. We assumed that everyone saw us as happy buddies with smokescreens in the form of other individuals. I even made fun of Ted, another man who works with me, saying he was my office spouse and that he needed to improve if he wanted to be my wife. The issue eventually got out of hand the day we happened to be in the elevator alone, but it seemed like the diversions were effective. I hit the stop button, darn. My hypothesis about the reason was accurate. I happily gave him back the ferocious kiss that he had so boldly sprung for. We swiftly felt all over one another's bodies with our hands. Everything was forgotten in the minutes that followed, save for the pleasure of each other. When he let go of the button and the elevator made contact, I was reluctant to move away. His only statement was, "We need to talk." I gave him a nod. I was too busy thinking about our elevator ride that day to do anything else. The "I want more" sensation prevailed over my small remorse. When I called Darn, he offered to let my husband know that I might be running a little behind schedule today. I pondered whether he desired to continue our sexual escapades this evening. I wished that he would. As soon as he entered my office, he told me that we had to move quickly and that he didn't usually stay late. Nobody made an effort to get close to me. Rather, we conversed. We both felt that although we needed to exercise utmost caution, we wanted to be intimate with one another. After returning home, the two of us began to consider safe ways to fulfill our desires. I've read that women who cheat frequently tell their husbands that they can still have sex with them whenever they want, thus the marriage is still intact. They were also unwittingly having extramarital affairs outside of the bedroom. Without realizing it, I began treating Bill differently right away. I suppose I was looking for something to be wrong with him so I wouldn't feel bad about being with my partner. I was thinking about my possible partner virtually non-stop after the elevator incident. Little annoyances that Bill did at home that I had never noticed previously became problematic. I had concerns, and I raised them aloud. I used to nag him for things if they weren't completed right away, even though I knew he would do them eventually. I started to annoy people. Darnell, in the meantime, had devised a plan for our meetings. He rented a little spare room in an office building on the floor above us. How could he afford that, I wondered. I didn't object when he said, "It's the perk of being a rich wife." We received a few basic pieces of furniture, the most significant of which was a big sofa with a cover that was simple to wash. We gave it a name as quickly as we could. The sex with Darnell was much more satisfying than anticipated. We both uttered the LW because we were so happy. I have a good feeling that we meant desire rather than love. We would leave the table at separate times going forward so that we could get together during our breaks. While one was using the elevator, the other was going up the stairs. Neither on the way to nor from our love nest did we travel together. We had sex at various times and on different days. We occasionally took a few days off to lessen the chance of being discovered. We made an effort to consider every way our spouses might catch us. We were often looking around the house and office for cameras or other recording equipment. We never exchanged texts or emails. We had a special phone that Darnell got us for our own usage only. We had to tell our wives that the phone was for work use exclusively if they happened to see it. We selected easily guessed passwords that had nothing to do with our family members. We seemed to have considered everything. My want to be with Darnell always grew as our connection did. Though Bill no longer made me feel the same way that Darnell did, I still loved him. Bill was an old pair of cozy slippers that I refused to part with. Darnell was a brand new, expensive shoe that I had to have. It was Darn who first mentioned the possibility of our eternal togetherness. We came up with a concrete plan together. We mentioned to our wives in passing that we knew of someone whose spouse had passed away unexpectedly. The surviving spouse could not access the frozen funds in the deceased spouse's name right away, notwithstanding the existence of a will. The surviving spouse had to take out a loan until the probate matter was settled during the more than 6-month-long legal battle. We stated that if their bank accounts had been opened in both of their names, this could have been prevented. Mary Alice consented to finally show Darnell that she did not think he was a gold digger, in contrast to her family. In our instance, Bill heeded the advice, and we both added our names to the accounts we already had. It was he who proposed putting our names on the safe, which contained savings bonds, gold coins, and antique jewelry. I thanked him while having some of the nicest sex I'd had in a long time. Though in my imagination it was Darnell's body, it might have been Bill's. It wasn't until Elizabeth showed up that I realized how different I felt about Bill. It pleased both Bill and myself to see her. We three giggled and related tales from her early years. It resembled going back in time. She pulled me aside and explained that my father had asked her what was wrong because I had been acting irritably lately. Liz said she thought I was typical during this meeting. I responded there was probably something her father had said. I said I was depressed and speculated that I might be going through menopause. We had a stronger marriage than ever, I told her. I couldn't tell my daughter the truth just yet, but it hurt to lie to her. I told Darnell that I felt like Bill was starting to get concerned about me when we got a chance to speak afterwards. I mentioned that I believed it would be best if we set up a time to meet together sooner rather than later. Although the solution we came up with was incredibly unjust to Bill and Mary Alice, we were already deceiving them, so whatever. We planned to steal every penny we could find and flee together. It wouldn't be as harsh for them. Our husbands were both extremely wealthy. Mary Alice because of her family, and Bill because of his work. They would not experience financial hardship for very long. Receiving the family's money didn't bother Darnell because he didn't like Mary Alice's family. I gave myself a weak justification for robbing my blind hubby. Nothing I did could convince him to change. I was unwilling to consider it. My main priority was to escape with my partner and do our own thing, whenever we pleased. No more meandering through the past. It was nearly time. I confirmed that Bill had a reservation at the restaurant for 6 p.m. over the phone. He had, and there was a bottle of our favorite wine cooling already. Bill said he would meet me at work at 3:30 p.m., but he would have to remain a little later. I was in our bank. I told the girl I wanted to take all of our money out of our joint accounts and I offered her my ID. She had a bewildered expression on her face as she looked at our accounts. The note in the computer said he was afraid of the stock market crash and wanted to, for a while, pay in cash. I think you and your husband may have gotten mixed up, the note said. He was in earlier today and has already withdrawn almost all of the money. When so much money is withdrawn, we are encouraged to ask why in case it has something to do with customer service. Your spouse claimed that the money was safe, even though the person handling the transaction sought to reassure him. What about the safety deposit box? Maybe he put cash in it, but I don't work in that department. See the man in the brown jacket by the elevator, he can help you there. Do you have the key to the safe deposit box with you? I do, I responded. The man requested me to sign the register as I came up to him. I saw Bill's signature a few names ahead of mine as I was doing that. He had either placed the money inside the box or gotten there before me to remove it. Significant distinction. Enormous. We unlocked the safe deposit box door after I went downstairs. I was looking forward to seeing what I would find. I felt somewhat anxious. I was left alone to open our box once it was set on a table. My heart fell. Other than a letter, it contained nothing. Alicia, if you're reading this, you know I beat you to our money. Darnell must find out now too. The same thing when Mary Alice and I found out what you and Darnell were up to, we started thinking about what to do. Although we thought about divorce, we realized that your plan was better, hide with the money and disappear. You two were very good at hiding your affair. If you want to blame someone for us finding out about it, blame the telemarketer who called you on your second cell phone while you were in the other room. Apparently, you turned off the sound but not the vibrating ringer. When I pulled the scam phone out of your purse, I saw that you had a telemarketer calling you for a while. I didn't think anything of it, but then I just wondered, why would you need a second phone? There could be several good reasons, but I immediately thought of one terrible reason: to cover up an affair. I considered this reason as justification for your recent behavior, but I didn't hint to you that I was beginning to have doubts, despite other signs of cheating. Remember when I bought that box of helium pens because I kept losing pens? I gave you a few and scattered many around the house so I could find them when I needed a pen. Anyway, each pen had a transmitter in it that sent all the conversations to my computer. I made sure you always had one pen in your purse. It took us a few days to get the whole story, but we did. While planning together, we were trying to help each other heal a broken heart, and we fell in love. At first, it was revenge sex, but then it grew into something more. The idea of going away to romantic places with an exciting new lover was stolen from the two of you, but it suited us just fine, especially since you both thought it was good enough for you. I've sent Liz my side of the story, so in a couple of days, she'll know what's going on. I assured her that I would make sure that the rest of her tuition would be paid for. She will probably want to talk to you once she gets the information I've told her about you and Darnell, so be prepared. As Mary Alice and I travel the world together, we'll keep an eye on you guys. I'm not sure you'll find the money to start traveling, especially since your boss has been notified about you dating during work hours. We'll send postcards if you can't make it. By the way, Mary Alice and I recently canceled your airline ticket. I don't think you'll want to leave the country without cash or credit cards. One of the things I told Mary Alice but didn't tell you is that I had a nickname I got in elementary school. I was called Toad after I played the part of a frog in the school play. This fact got me thinking about another way of breaking up with a loved one not mentioned in Simon and Garfunkel's song. My version of what we do is take it on the road. Toad, I'm sure it's not funny to you or Darnell. That's too bad. We like it. I hope the sex with Darnell was worth it, at least you still got that. Goodbye, Darnell. I guess I should thank you for almost 20 years of marriage and a wonderful daughter. Somehow, hearing what you actually think of me as a husband and lover, and what you plan to do to me, makes it hard for me to play nice.